In the vast and mysterious wilds of Idaho, a haunting tale of a young man's sudden disappearance continues to perplex both authorities and the public. His name was Terrence Woods Jr., a talented and ambitious filmmaker whose vanishing act has left a trail of questions and speculations. Today, we venture into the depths of this chilling story, uncovering the known facts and the theories that surround his strange disappearance. But be warned, this tale is not for the faint-hearted. As we delve into the eerie unknown, you may find yourself questioning everything you know about reality. Join us now as we journey into the heart of this enigmatic tale, retracing the steps of Terrence Woods Jr. and attempting to piece together the puzzle of his disappearance. As we navigate the twists and turns of this haunting mystery, we will confront the limits of our understanding and confront the chilling possibility that some secrets are simply too strange, too inexplicable, and too terrifying to ever be revealed. Terrence Woods Jr., born and raised in Maryland, was a passionate and dedicated young man, known for his enthusiasm and commitment to his work in the film industry. A graduate of the prestigious American University in Washington, D.C., Terrence had built an impressive resume, working with various television networks and contributing to numerous documentaries and television shows. His skill set and determination had earned him the respect of his peers, and his bright future seemed all but certain. However, the events that would unfold in the fall of 2018 would cast a shadow over his promising career, leaving those who knew him reeling from the shock and confusion that followed. It was in the autumn of 2018 that Terrence found himself employed by Raw TV, a British production company responsible for the creation of numerous successful reality television programs. The company had been contracted to produce a new documentary series for the Discovery Channel titled Gold Rush, which would follow intrepid gold miners as they braved the rugged wilderness of Idaho in search of fortune and glory. Terrence, always eager for a challenge and excited by the prospect of exploring the great outdoors, was a natural fit for the project. The Idaho backcountry, known for its picturesque landscapes and unspoiled beauty, also holds a darker side. Its dense forests, towering mountains, and deep valleys have long been the setting for countless tales of supernatural occurrences, mysterious vanishings, and eerie encounters. The state's rich mining history has spawned ghost towns and abandoned mines, with their crumbling structures and forgotten tunnels providing the perfect backdrop for stories of restless spirits and sinister forces. As Terrence and the television crew ventured into this remote and haunting landscape, they were well aware of the challenges they would face. The terrain was treacherous, the weather unpredictable, and the locations they sought were often difficult to access. But, driven by their desire to tell the story of the region's gold mining past, they pressed on, undaunted by the obstacles in their path. It was against this backdrop of adventure and exploration that the bizarre and inexplicable events of October 5th, 2018 would unfold, forever changing the lives of those involved and casting a dark shadow over the Idaho wilderness. October 5th, 2018, when 26-year-old Terrence Woods Jr. found himself working as part of a television production crew in the remote wilderness of Idaho. They were filming a new documentary series, Gold Rush, for the Discovery Channel. The crew had spent weeks traversing the rugged terrain in search of long-forgotten mining locations. On that fateful day, they were exploring the Penman Mine, a site notorious for its hazardous conditions and ghostly lore. Little did they know that the chilling atmosphere that surrounded them would soon give way to a far more sinister reality. The day had begun like any other, with the crew rising early to prepare for a long day of filming. They had spent the previous night at the Oro Grande summit, a base camp that offered a temporary respite from the harsh conditions of the Idaho backcountry. After a hearty breakfast and a final check of their equipment, they set off towards the Penman Mine, excited to capture the haunting beauty of the abandoned mining site on camera. As the crew made their way through the dense forest, Terrence seemed to be in good spirits, chatting and joking with his colleagues as they navigated the treacherous terrain. The work was demanding, and the hours were long, but the camaraderie among the team members helped to keep morale high. As the day wore on, the crew began to make progress, capturing stunning footage of the Penman Mine's decaying structures and eerie, shadow-filled tunnels. By late afternoon, the sun had begun its descent towards the horizon, casting long shadows across the landscape and bathing the Penman Mine in a soft golden light. The crew, weary from their day's labor, began the process of packing up their equipment, eager to return to the safety and comfort of their base camp. It was at this moment, as the last rays of sunlight slipped behind the distant mountains, that Terrence Woods Jr. stepped away from the group, setting in motion a chain of events that would defy explanation and leave a lasting mark on all who were present. Those who were there that day would later recall that there was nothing to suggest that anything was amiss. Terrence had been behaving normally, showing no signs of anxiety or distress. But suddenly, without warning or apparent reason, Terrence began to sprint downhill through the dense forest, leaving behind his stunned colleagues who watched in disbelief. His panicked flight seemed to come out of nowhere, as if he had been seized by an invisible force or compelled by some unseen terror. Despite their frantic attempts to catch up to him, Terrence had vanished into the wilderness, leaving only the echo of his footsteps and the lingering sense of shock and confusion among his fellow crew members. As the realization of what had just occurred began to sink in, the crew knew that they had to act quickly if they were to have any hope of finding their lost colleague. They immediately alerted the authorities and began to retrace Terrence's steps, desperate to find some trace of him in the rapidly encroaching darkness. But as the hours ticked by and the search efforts intensified, it became increasingly apparent that Terrence Woods Jr. had disappeared without a trace, leaving behind a mystery that would baffle all who attempted to unravel it. The suddenness and inexplicability of Terrence's disappearance sent shockwaves through the crew and the small community nearby. In the days that followed, an extensive search and rescue operation was launched, with local authorities, volunteers, and even the FBI joining in the efforts to locate the missing filmmaker. The Idaho County Sheriff's Office led the search, utilizing all-terrain vehicles, search dogs, and helicopters in their desperate attempt to find any sign of Terrence in the unforgiving wilderness. Despite combing through miles of treacherous terrain and utilizing every resource at their disposal, no trace of Terrence was found. The search teams encountered numerous challenges, including dense forest growth, steep ravines, and treacherous cliffs, which made the efforts all the more difficult and hazardous. As each day passed, the hope of finding him alive dwindled, leaving those involved with a sinking feeling of despair. Yet, in the midst of the search, a series of oddities and inconsistencies began to emerge. Terrence's cell phone, which he had been using earlier in the day, was found in his abandoned backpack near the site of his frantic flight. Stranger still, the contents of his pockets, including his car keys and wallet, were scattered along the path he had taken in his panicked dash. These bizarre clues only deepened the mystery of his disappearance, leading many to wonder if there was more to the story than initially met the eye. Adding to the unease surrounding the case, the Penman Mine area was known for its lack of cellular reception, making communication and coordination during the search efforts extremely challenging. As the days turned into weeks, the search operation was eventually scaled back, with local authorities continuing to investigate leads and follow up on any potential sightings of Terrence. Throughout this harrowing ordeal, Terrence's family in Maryland struggled to come to terms with the bizarre circumstances surrounding his disappearance. They were left with a multitude of questions but no answers, as they desperately sought to understand what could have happened to their beloved son and brother. As the investigation continued, the family sought the assistance of private investigators and reached out to the media, hoping to generate new leads and keep Terrence's story in the public eye. However, as time wore on, and the initial shock and urgency of the situation began to fade, the search for Terrence Woods Jr. slowly slipped from the headlines, replaced by other stories and events. And yet, the mystery of his disappearance continued to haunt those who had known him, those who had searched for him, and those who had followed his story from afar. As the months turned into years, the unanswered questions continued to pile up, and the chilling truth remained elusive. Terrence Woods had vanished without a trace, leaving behind a tangled web of enigma and uncertainty. Unraveling the mystery, as with any unsolved mystery, theories and speculations began to swirl around Terrence's vanishing act. Some pointed to the possibility of foul play, suggesting that he may have been involved in a heated altercation with a crew member or stumbled upon a dark secret in the Idaho wilderness that someone wanted to keep hidden. Unconfirmed rumors circulated of tensions within the crew and disputes over filming locations, further fueling the speculation that something sinister may have taken place that day. Others speculated that Terrence had suffered a sudden mental breakdown, perhaps triggered by the isolated and eerie location. They posited that the pressures of work, combined with the remote and haunting setting, may have pushed Terrence to the brink, causing him to flee in a moment of sheer panic. However, those who knew him well insisted that he had shown no signs of emotional distress or instability prior to his disappearance, and his family vehemently denied any history of mental health issues. Another theory that gained traction was that Terrence had fallen victim to the paranormal. The Penman Mine was known to be a place steeped in ghost stories and tales of strange happenings. Could Terrence have encountered something otherworldly that day? Something so terrifying that it compelled him to flee without a second thought? Some amateur sleuths and paranormal enthusiasts claim to have discovered evidence of past supernatural incidents in the area, ranging from ghostly apparitions to unexplained phenomena. These stories, while intriguing, remained largely unsubstantiated and did little to provide concrete answers. As the weeks and months passed, the search for Terrence continued, albeit on a smaller scale, with dedicated volunteers and family members refusing to give up hope. New leads and potential sightings were followed up on, but each one led to another dead end. Theories continued to evolve and mutate, with some even suggesting that Terrence may have deliberately orchestrated his own disappearance, perhaps to escape the pressures of his life or to start anew. However, his family and friends vehemently denied this possibility, insisting that Terrence was a dedicated and passionate young man who would not abandon his loved ones without a word. Despite the many theories and countless hours of investigation, no concrete evidence has emerged to explain Terrence's baffling disappearance. The questions continue to pile up, and with each passing day, the hope of finding answers seems to slip further away. What could have driven Terrence to run off into the wilderness that day, leaving behind everything he knew? Was he the victim of a terrible accident or a sinister plot? Or did he stumble upon something far more chilling, something that defies explanation? As we approach the 5th anniversary of Terrence Woods Jr., theories and speculations continue to evolve, with some even suggesting that Terrence may have deliberately orchestrated his own disappearance, perhaps to escape the pressures of his life, or to start anew. However, his family and friends vehemently deny this possibility, insisting that Terrence was a dedicated and passionate young man who would not abandon his loved ones without a word. Despite the many theories and countless hours of investigation, no concrete evidence has emerged to explain Terrence's baffling disappearance. The questions continue to pile up, and with each passing day, the hope of finding answers seems to slip further away. What could have driven Terrence to run off into the wilderness that day, leaving behind everything he knew? Was he the victim of a terrible accident or a sinister plot? Or did he stumble upon something far more chilling, something that defies explanation? As we conclude our journey into the enigmatic tale of Terrence Woods Jr., we are left with a chilling reminder that some mysteries may never be solved. The wilds of Idaho, much like the human psyche, are vast and unpredictable, holding secrets that may forever remain hidden from our understanding. We can only hope that one day the truth will come to light, offering closure to Terrence's family and friends, and finally putting to rest the haunting questions that surround his disappearance. But until that day arrives, the story of Terrence Woods Jr. will continue to be whispered about in hushed tones, a chilling reminder of the thin line that separates the known from the unknown, the ordinary from the extraordinary, and the world we understand from the shadows that lurk just beyond our reach. Stay tuned for more next time. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up icon. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notifications for new videos.